Michael Harris, a stern lawyer, sits at a mahogany desk, facing the composed Daniel Parker in expectant silence. Linda Parker maintains an elegant composure, masking her tension in the formal law office setting. Ethan Parker fidgets, his gaze averted, adding to the palpable unease filling the room. The heavy silence hangs, thick with unspoken anxieties among the Parkers and their lawyer. The scratching of a pen fills the silence, a stark sound in the unknown location. A hand places a document on a desk, its surface gleaming under the light. The ink is still wet, a fresh stain on the crisp paper, a silent accusation. Daniel, V.O. The day the ink dried, betrayal was complete. The document sits, an emblem of deceit, the wet ink a promise of treachery. Sunlight cuts through blinds, striping a somber law office where heavy silence hangs in the air. A mahogany table anchors the room, surrounded by figures cloaked in respectful dark attire. Michael, a man etched with grief, stands at the head, a thick document in his hands. He pauses, steeling himself for the task ahead, his gaze sweeping over the room. With a heavy heart, Michael clears his throat, the sound echoing in the silent room. "We are gathered today to execute the will of the late Robert Parker," Michael announces. Michael begins reading the will, his voice echoing slightly in the silent law office. The initial clauses are standard, but a subtle tension fills the room. Each word hangs heavy in the air, promising secrets and potential conflict. A palpable anticipation settles over everyone present, their eyes fixed on Michael. The weight of the unseen clauses begins to press down, altering the atmosphere. In the lawyer's office, grief hangs heavy as Mr. Henderson begins to read Michael's will. Daniel and Ethan sit, their faces etched with sorrow, bracing themselves for what's to come. Linda's red-rimmed eyes reflect a deep, raw pain as she listens, her heart heavy with loss. Mr. Henderson's sympathetic gaze sweeps over the grieving family, a silent acknowledgement. "And to my sons, Daniel and Ethan, and my wife Linda, I leave," Mr. Henderson reads. The weight of Michael's last wishes settles upon them, binding them together in shared grief. Fluorescent lights hum over Michael's desk, casting a sterile glow, papers scattered. Michael pauses, his movements betraying a subtle unease. Linda sits opposite, her hands clasped tightly, knuckles white. A flicker of anxiety dances in Linda's eyes, betraying her inner turmoil. The sterile office amplifies the unspoken tension between them. Silence hangs heavy, broken only by the hum of the lights above, an unknown place. The air is thick with unspoken tension, a silent storm gathering force. The weight of hidden words hangs heavy, each breath a struggle against the suffocating atmosphere. Michael breaks the silence, his words sharp and precise. A significantly reduced inheritance. The impact of his statement reverberates, shattering the fragile calm and unleashing the brewing conflict. Inside the law office, Ethan leans forward, disbelief etched on his face. His scoff echoes in the tense silence, a clear sign of disdain. Daniel remains impassive, his gaze unwavering on Michael. The air vibrates with unspoken tension, thick and heavy. Each man is locked in his own thoughts, a silent battle. The law office becomes a stage for their silent conflict. Ethan stands in a sterile room, its blankness mirroring his confusion. His brow furrows, a silent question hanging in the air as he searches for answers. "Reduced? What does that mean?" Ethan asks, his voice echoing in the empty space. His eyes dart around, seeking any clue within the room's cold, indifferent surfaces. In soft light, Mikhail, a man in his late 40s, faces an unseen figure across a table strewn with documents. His stern gaze and measured tone hint at serious revelations about to unfold. The papers whisper secrets as Michael prepares to unveil a hidden truth. "It appears a considerable portion of Mr. Parker's assets are unaccounted for," Michael reveals, his voice grave. The soft light casts long shadows, amplifying the weight of Michael's words, setting the stage for conflict. Inside the law office, tension hangs heavy in the air, thick with unspoken words and hidden anxieties. Linda gasps softly, a subtle break in her composure that betrays her inner turmoil. Her reaction hangs in the balance, a silent question mark in the sterile environment of the office. Daniel's eyes narrow almost imperceptibly, a flicker of calculation or guarded curiosity. He remains silent, a stoic figure whose quiet observation amplifies the scene's dramatic tension. The air is thick with unspoken tension, shadows playing across the walls like secrets whispered in the dark. A sense of unease permeates the room, each corner concealing hidden truths and festering doubts. "Daniel, V.O." The first crack appeared, his voice echoes, heavy with regret. "Daniel, V.O." "The missing money," he continues, the words hanging in the air like a shroud. "Daniel, V.O." "The first lie exposed," he reveals, the truth cutting through the silence. Ethan sits in a sterile law office, facing a stern lawyer. His posture shifts, a flicker of defensiveness crossing his face. The lawyer's gaze is unwavering, intensifying the tension. Ethan's unease grows, palpable in the silent room. Ethan stands tense in the nondescript room, anger simmering beneath a defensive facade. The room, sterile and bare, amplifies the tension hanging heavy in the air. His eyes narrow, suspicion and defiance warring within him. "What are you implying?" Ethan challenges, his voice sharp with controlled fury. The unspoken accusation hangs in the silence, thick and suffocating. "That I had something to do with this?" Ethan asks, his gaze unwavering. Tension hangs heavy in the air as Michael faces Mr. Parker in the Stark office. Michael stands firm, his expression unyielding as he prepares to confront Mr. Parker. Mr. Parker's eyes narrow, a storm brewing beneath the surface. "I am simply stating the facts, Mr. Parker," Michael declares, his voice steady. "There are irregularities," Michael concludes, the weight of his words palpable. Michael spreads financial statements across the polished mahogany desk, the papers rustling softly in the silent office. Daniel leans in, his intense gaze dissecting each figure, the weight of the numbers pressing down on him. The rich wood reflects the somber light, highlighting the growing concern etched on Daniel's face. A grim expression settles over Daniel, each line deepening as the full scope of the situation becomes clear. The stark financial details tell a story of looming crisis, their silence broken only by the men's heavy breaths. Inside the law office, the air buzzes with unspoken tension as Linda halts the ongoing discussion. Linda, a young lawyer, her eyes blazing with fierce determination, stands firm. Her sudden interruption hangs heavy, demanding attention and changing the course. The room stills, all eyes drawn to Linda, awaiting her next move with bated breath. A palpable shift occurs, the weight of the moment resting squarely on her shoulders. A lone spotlight carves Linda from the darkness, her face a canvas of mixed emotions. The background fades into obscurity, intensifying the focus on Linda's solitary figure. A faint smile plays on her lips, tinged with a hint of melancholy. Her eyes reflect memories, casting shadows of the past. "Robert was always careless with money," she says, her voice echoing in the void. The spotlight tightens, capturing the weight of her unspoken thoughts. Inside the law office, tension hangs heavy in the air. Daniel pivots, his body language tense. He faces Linda, his gaze intense. His silence speaks volumes. The unspoken words fill the room. Accusations linger in the air between Daniel and Linda. An aura of mystery fills the dimly lit room, obscuring the full picture and hinting at concealed truths. Shadows dance, enhancing the suspense as the scene unfolds, inviting speculation and intrigue. Daniel, VO's voice echoes in the room, adding to the tension. Careless? Or covering something up? The question hangs in the air, unanswered, amplifying the mystery and urging a deeper investigation. Michael arranges documents, each a damning indictment of Ethan's spiraling gambling debts. The stark evidence weighs heavily, a palpable burden in the tense atmosphere. Ethan, initially defiant, visibly pales as the gravity of his situation sinks in. His bravado crumbles, replaced by a dawning horror as reality crashes down on him. Michael sits at his desk, the weight of numbers pressing down. Financial reports spread before him, a labyrinth of figures. He leans in, eyes narrowed, a storm of concern brewing. "These transactions," he mutters, voice tight with unease. "They suggest a pattern of significant losses," he concludes grimly. Inside the sterile law office, Ethan shifts uncomfortably, beads of sweat gathering on his brow. He stammers, words failing him, as he attempts to counter the evidence stacked against him. His gaze darts nervously around the room, a trapped animal seeking escape. Ethan avoids eye contact, shame and fear etched deeply into his face. The weight of the presented evidence crushes him, each document a nail in his coffin. Silence hangs heavy, broken only by Ethan's shallow, panicked breaths. In stark light, Ethan stands alone, fear etched on his face. His eyes dart around, trapped, a cornered animal. Sweat beads on his forehead, reflecting the harsh glare. Desperation colors his expression, a plea for understanding. He opens his mouth, voice trembling, ready to speak. I can explain," Ethan stammers, hope fading fast. In the Stark law office, silence hangs heavy as Daniel watches Ethan's desperate justifications unfold. Ethan's face is a mask of desperation, his words tumbling over each other in a frantic attempt. Daniel's eyes, cold and assessing, never leave Ethan, dissecting every word. The sterile environment amplifies Ethan's unease, each tick of the clock a hammer blow. Ethan's hands flutter nervously, betraying the carefully constructed facade of innocence. Daniel remains an unreadable statue, the weight of his judgment crushing Ethan. The air is thick with unspoken tension, shadows playing across the walls, hiding secrets in every corner. Darkness clings, obscuring details, hinting at truths yet to be revealed. A voice echoes, breaking the silence, a narrator's lament in the oppressive atmosphere. Daniel, VO, the truth, like a festering wound, began to surface. The shadows deepen, a visual metaphor for the painful revelations about to unfold. Inside the law office, tension hangs heavy as Michael lays out the evidence. Large cash withdrawals are presented, each document a nail in the coffin. The evidence is laid bare, casting a dark shadow over Linda's actions. Each withdrawal tells a story of hidden motives, now exposed to the light. A web of deceit unravels with each piece of evidence Michael presents. The room is filled with the weight of the incriminating discoveries. Under the sterile fluorescent lights, Michael confronts Mrs. Parker with a stack of papers. The humming lights amplify the tension in the office, reflecting off the papers in Michael's hands. Michael's firm gaze meets Mrs. Parker's, the silence broken only by the hum of the lights. "Mrs. Parker, can you account for these?" Michael asks, his voice sharp and direct. In the law office, Linda's carefully constructed composure begins to crumble under unseen pressure. Her eyes dart away, avoiding Daniel's intense gaze. A silent admission of inner turmoil. A subtle shift in her posture betrays a vulnerability she struggles to conceal. The weight of unspoken truths hangs heavy in the air between them. The sterile environment of the office amplifies the emotional tension. In a dim space, Linda averts her eyes, a storm of distress brewing within. Her voice trembles, a confession escaping her lips. Robert needed it. Hesitation hangs heavy as she justifies. 4. Investments. The unspoken truth lingers, casting a shadow over Linda's words. Michael gestures, the projector casting a stark light on concerned faces in the law office. Bank statements glow, numbers swimming before Daniel and Ethan. Tension fills the air, highlighted in red. Mark Reynolds. The name pulses with unspoken implications. The mundane columns of figures hide a dangerous truth, now brought into sharp focus. In a stark office, Mrs. Parker sits, her face an enigma. Michael watches intently. Michael leans forward, curiosity etched on his face, a question hanging in the air. "And who is Mr. Reynolds, Mrs. Parker?" Michael asks, his voice laced with intrigue. Mrs. Parker's eyes flicker, a hint of something unreadable passing across her gaze. The silence stretches, thick with unspoken words and hidden meanings. Linda stands frozen. Her face reflects stark terror and shame. The sterile law office amplifies her profound distress. Each breath seems a monumental effort as her eyes dart around. The silence hangs heavy, broken only by the frantic beat of her heart. Her hands tremble slightly, betraying the storm raging inside. She is a statue of despair, trapped in a nightmare. A dimly lit room, whispers, secrets, shadows clinging to every corner. A silent witness to unseen dramas. Daniel's voice echoes, laced with bitterness, a haunting lament in the hollow space. "The affair. The ultimate betrayal," he says, each word a shard of glass, cutting deep. His voice heavy with resignation. "My father, a fool, in his own home." In the law office, Michael stands solemnly, a sealed letter in hand, its crisp white envelope stark against the dim backdrop. The formal address is a silent testament to weighty matters. He extends the letter towards the family, his solemn expression mirroring the gravity of the moment. The air is thick with anticipation, the sealed letter a promise of revelations. Each member watches Michael, their expressions reflecting anxiety. Sunlight paints dust motes in the silent, somber conference room, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Michael, young and grave, stands at the head of the mahogany table, a sealed envelope in his hand. Board members watch with bated breath as Michael prepares to break the silence. The weight of unspoken expectations presses down in the brightly lit, yet heavy room. "Mr. Parker left this to be read after the financial disclosures," Michael announces, his voice echoing. Sunlight streams into the law office as Michael sits, an unopened letter casting a long shadow on the polished desk. With a deliberate motion, Michael breaks the seal, the sound sharp in the otherwise silent room. He unfolds the crisp paper, his eyes scanning the words, each line etching deeper lines of concern on his face. A subtle tightening of his jaw betrays the gravity of the news he is absorbing. Michael leans back in his chair, the letter now slack in his grip, his gaze fixed on some unseen point beyond the window. The weight of responsibility settles upon Michael's shoulders, his expression a mask of grim determination. In a dimly lit room, shadows dance as Michael sits alone, a solitary lamp illuminating his burdened figure. A letter trembles in his grasp, its weight heavy with unspoken truths. Each word pierces him, the ink bleeding into his soul under the harsh light. "By the time you hear this, you will know everything," the letter reveals with chilling finality. The room seems to shrink around him as the gravity of the confession sinks in. His face contorts with a mixture of pain and realization, the truth echoing in the silent room. A heavy silence descends, thick with unspoken shock, in the sterile law office. Ethan visibly reels, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. Linda's composure cracks, her eyes wide with stunned incomprehension. Her trembling hands betray the turmoil raging beneath her professional facade. In stark contrast, Daniel remains an unreadable statue, his face a blank canvas. The air hangs heavy, charged with the weight of the revelation. Total darkness. A faint light flickers, revealing dust motes dancing in the still, silent air. The sound of heavy breathing echoes, filling the void with a sense of urgent dread. A voice cuts through the silence, heavy with accusation and regret. He knew. The unseen speaker continues, a bitter edge to his words. And he did nothing. The finality hangs in the air as the voice concludes. The promise of action. Until now, inside the law office, legal documents cast long shadows, the air thick with anticipation and unspoken tension. Michael, his brow furrowed in concentration, continues to read the will's final fateful clause. Each word hangs heavy in the air, carrying the weight of legacies and uncertain futures. The fate of fortunes and families teeters on the edge as the last sentences are revealed. Silence descends, broken only by the rustle of paper as the consequences unfold. In a grand room filled with shadows, Michael sits at a mahogany table, legal documents spread before him. The weight of his years is evident in his posture, the air thick with unspoken decisions. Michael's voice echoes in the silent room, a declaration of intent. Therefore, I have decided to leave the majority of my estate to various charitable organizations, he concludes, a somber finality in his eyes. Inside the law office, tension fills the air as Ethan's fury begins to erupt. With a sudden burst of rage, Ethan slams his fist on the table, the sound echoing, his face contorted in anger. Ethan's explosive outburst silences the room. The force of his anger leaves the others in stunned silence. The air thick with emotion, Michael stands, his face etched with gravity, the atmosphere tense and heavy with unspoken burdens. He gestures towards an unseen document, a gesture laden with the weight of unspoken financial realities. His voice, a somber pronouncement, fills the room with an air of impending doom and revelation. In fact, the estate is burdened with significant debt, Michael reveals, his words cutting through the silence. You will inherit that responsibility, he declares, passing on a legacy of burden and obligation. Inside the sterile law office, Linda is hunched over, her body racked with silent, heart-wrenching sobs. Ethan stares blankly ahead, his eyes reflecting a profound and crushing defeat. Daniel watches them both, his face an inscrutable mask, carefully hiding his true feelings. The air is thick with unspoken grief and the weight of irreversible loss. Each character is trapped in their own private hell, isolated by the shared tragedy. A man's weary voice echoes, filling an undefined space with a heavy sense of despair and regret. The scene is a blank canvas, ready to be painted with the stark colors of ruin and desolation. Daniel, V.O.'s, voice cracks with emotion. Not wealth, but ruin. His words linger, a haunting epitaph to the final act of a broken man. Michael gathers his papers, the rustling sounds echoing in the silent law office. The weight of unspoken words hangs heavy in the air, a palpable sense of defeat lingering. Resentment simmers beneath the surface, a silent poison infecting the room. His movements are deliberate, each action a small act of defiance against despair. The meeting's aftermath leaves a bitter taste, a residue of disappointment clinging to everything. Shadows lengthen, mirroring the growing darkness within the room and in Michael's heart. Ethan and Linda leave the law office, a palpable tension lingering between them. The office door clicks shut, sealing a chapter of unspoken resentments. Daniel remains seated, alone in the weighty silence of the room. Silence envelopes Daniel, the heavy quiet amplifying the sense of finality. The weight of the silence presses in on him, a tangible burden. Inside the law office, Daniel gazes out the window, his face an unreadable mask. His unchanging expression hints at inner turmoil hidden deep within. The camera lingers on his face, yet reveals nothing of his thoughts. Silence permeates the room, heavy with unspoken words and unseen burdens. The scene fades to black, a stark contrast to Daniel's enigmatic presence. Words appear. Gambling ruins money, betrayal ruins families, and silence ends everything.